Kia ora koutou. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. In the hot seat, how to sound confident and overcome nerves. We are joined today by someone who's kind of an expert in this, Mary Lambie. I think she's sat in the seat on both sides, asking the questions and answering the questions. So welcome, Mary.
Hello, and thank you very much. I have to admit that this is an absolute first for me. And if I click that button there, all going hi to the whole or so of you that are on. Welcome to Point Chev. This is also fabulously modern. And I reckon if there is one thing that is going to come out of lockdown is that we're all just going to be so fabulously technically savvy, and this way of communicating may well in fact become the new norm. Now, I am going to admit I have never used Zoom before Corona turned our lives inside out and upside down, and neither did I ever own such a fancy pair of headphones. Do we like? There's some kind of flash German thing that my 15-year-old son insisted that I buy. And the irony is that I can't, there's something wrong with the Bluetooth on my computer. So off the back of that, I can't really ever use them except for going for walks and listening to a bit of Spotify while I'm out and about around the streets of Point Chev. So welcome on board. I doubt very much if we'll take the full hour, and I would love to hear from you at any point. Just flick me a chat, a question. It doesn't have to wait till the end whatsoever. In fact, I'd be really grateful for any questions right now. If they're on topic or off topic, I absolutely don't mind whatsoever. Now, all going well at my place, we're going to have quiet. The three teenagers went to bed very late last night because they watched 2 of Pirates of the Caribbean, and that movie happens to be the longest movie on God's green earth, and so they all just have slowly got up over the past half an hour. They're grazing in the kitchen, so this is all good. Tick and husband Jim Mora, well, you see, on a Sunday we have to tiptoe around the house while he broadcasts his Radio New Zealand Sunday show out of his office downstairs. So this is just a bit of payback, and I've told him he's not allowed to come up unless it's a really fabulous cup of coffee. And that is it. So hopefully silence all around. You've got a wee person talking in the background of yours, Elaine, but that's just the way it is, isn't it?
It is. So this webinar is being recorded, so Rihanna will share the link with everyone later if you want to go back and view some of the things again. But as Mary said, ask your questions, use the little dashboard on the right hand side of the screen and type them in, and Rihanna will read them aloud. Okay, I'm going to disappear off and over to you, Mary. Thank you.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'd already got myself underway there. Hey, I just wanted to welcome some of you guys in. Now, I want to say hi to the boss because Fiona Cassidy is on board. Excuse me looking over on the screen, but I've got a whole spreadsheet of who's here. If I don't call you out, I'm sorry, but it's just, I want to welcome some of you on board. Louisa Turner from Tourism Export Council, awesome. We're going down to Ashburton. Hello, Janice Mackay from the Waikato District Council. Jane, Ashley, hi to you from Spark. Hi, Arwen. Let's see, Internet New Zealand, Kyra, well done and welcome here. Water New Zealand, Deborah, hi. Busy old times with the drought and all the rest of it, perhaps, I'm not sure, but anyway, it seems to be the least of our problems really on the scale of things. And from Auckland Transport, hello, Paul Patton. If I just flip down the list, we've got FGM, we've got Medicines New Zealand, hello, Kristen. From DOC, how awesome to have someone from DOC on board. Hello there, Jess. And Waikato University, Julia Moore, and from Wright Communications, Nikki Wright. So, and the list goes on. I again apologise if I haven't already mentioned you, but it's just really lovely to sort of all come together. So the brief is, in the hot seat, how to sound confident and overcome nerves. Let's see how we go. As I say, lots of questions, please. Let's start with confidence, will we? Does that sound like a good thing to do? Because my feeling is, and what I often do in my media training sessions, is I talk about confidence because the chances are very high that if you walk into something in a confident manner, obviously you're going to bring your nerves down. And that's not to say some nerves are a bad thing, because they're not, because I think some nerves are a very good thing because they keep you on your game. But I think sometimes nerves can get you so out of control and so worried and so fraught that you actually entirely lose your whole train of thought. So if we come in with a good base of confidence, that'll bring the nerves down. The two are absolutely linked, and those are the two things that I want to talk to you about today. I also wouldn't mind, if you're okay, which is a bit rich coming from me, just talking about some of the componentry that we're using in the modern age and how to really get a few television presenting skills under your belt so that you really master this sort of communication that is down the barrel, using the camera, using these virtual meetings, virtual conferences. Should I imagine the audience isn't wearing any clothes? Maybe not, but thank you. I see. Oh, is that from Elaine? That's bizarre. Okay, I will not be sidetracked by those. Sensible questions only, please. But I do rather like that. Okay, so let's start with the issue of confidence, will we? If you're confident, you obviously become and present yourself as more authoritative and more convincing, and that is a grand and great place to be. But why is it, do you think, that some people are naturally more confident than others? Genetics, DNA, and we can actually not do much about that. There is absolutely the DNA component. I think there is a role modeling component. You know, I just think back to my parents, both very confident people. They weren't necessarily outrageously loud or boisterous or anything, but they just had an inner confidence, and that's what was role modeled to me. And as I moved through into the media sector as an adult, I mean, the media environment tends to attract super confident people, or certainly on the face of it, they present as super confident. So that's when you're surrounded by constant role modeling of a particular behavior, you do tend to eventually adopt it. And I was just thinking now, I did do a degree in psychology. So if you're thinking she has no clue what she's talking about, I am actually trying to think back all those years too, when we covered all of this stuff back in the early days of that degree. And quite nice to sort of address some of it again too. So a couple of ideas around confidence. If you think that you're a bit lean on confidence, if you think you could really do with a bit of help on building your confidence, here are some ideas that I have for you. The first thing I'd like you to think about is really visualizing yourself as the wonderful person that you want to be. It reminds me of something really funny my mate Kerry McIver told me all those years ago, and she said we would go out on these really long runs, and she's an athlete. I am nowhere near an athlete, but we were getting ready for the Paris Marathon. It would have been probably about 10 years ago, I suppose now. And we'd be running past, and we'd be a bit lumpy and grumpy and not fabulous. But once we caught a glimpse of ourselves in those shop windows, you know, as you're running along the shop, you know, Pontchev, Greyland, Westmere, and we'd catch ourselves and we would say to ourselves, God, we look like Angelina Jolie. And we visualized ourselves looking like that. And it just upped our pace, and it upped our whole attitude towards completing the run with all our dignity intact. So visualization, very, very important. You've got to back yourself, because God knows if you don't back yourself, how can you expect others to back yourself? Give yourself a pat on the back when you deserve it, and you know that you deserve it, even though you're surrounded by people who are not even acknowledging the great thing that you have. Back yourself. And I say that to my kids all the time as they're sort of moving through these teenage years. Back yourself. Back yourself every single time. Face your fears, I think, is a really good way of building your confidence. If it scares you, do it. Now, a story I have to sort of colour that is that we have some very dear friends who've got a batch up in Pātau, which is, you know, Whanganui, and you go towards Whanganui Heads, and it's sort of tucked in there. And there is a bridge which divides South Pātau by North Pātau. So if you know that area, you'll know exactly the bridge that I'm talking about. Message me now and tell me if you even know where remotely in the country I am. And this bridge is just iconic in that it's an old wooden bridge. It's the only way you can get from north to south. You can't drive on it or anything. It's purely a footbridge. If you want to drive, you've actually got to go and get in the car and drive all the way around through Whangarei and come around the back. So it's an hour's trip, you know. And one of the things that you do when you're there is you absolutely have to jump off this bridge. It's quite a high bridge, and when the tide is right, all the locals are there. They're standing up on the railing, and off they go. Well, I am absolutely blind scared of heights. And for 3 consecutive years, I was told that I had to jump off the bridge because it's just a rite of passage to visiting and to holidaying in this area. And it was only last year, last December, that I put my life jacket on. Like, I can swim, but it just felt like sort of extra protection. And I got myself at the highest of tides, so it didn't seem like I was going to fall that far. And I gripped the side of that bridge like no other because it had weighed on me so heavily that I could not jump off this bridge, despite 2 seasons of trying. And after much analysis, paralysis, all of that stuff, I jumped. And God knows, the lift in me and my feeling of, I know it's bizarre, but self-worth just soared through that one act of facing my absolute abject fear and doing it anyway. Just like Susan Jeffries, the author, says, face your fears and do it, because the impact on you and your psyche will be absolutely phenomenal. You've got to calm that inner critic. We are our own worst enemies, aren't we? You know, sometimes when I was on the tally back in the day and I'd be watching some of it back and I think, God, you know, I look hideous, my hair's dreadful, my clothes look like crap, and a question line I was developing was just made absolutely zero sense at all. I wasn't concentrating, you know, all sorts of things. And I'd say to the producer, that was a dog of a performance and I am really sorry for that. And she said, well, she wasn't that bad. And I said, that's awful. And, you know, I'd be firing me if I was you, and thank God she didn't. And she actually remains one of my very dearest friends, that particular woman. But anyway, the point is that we are our own worst critics, aren't we? And so I think what you've got to do is talk to that inner critic of yours and say, actually, calm down, bugger off. This is what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not saying we can't all improve, but please don't be so hard on yourself. Calm that inner critic. And if that inner critic is going absolutely bananas, quieten it down. Shut it down. Play some music, read something funny, look on the YouTube, find whatever it takes just to distract you from that really heavy, critical self-talk. We have all been there. We all know what that is like. Hey, now this is a good one. This is really good.
Sorry, I'll just interrupt, Mary. We do have a question.
Yes.
Do you think, is confidence a cultural thing, especially being Kiwis?
Yeah, because we're not ones for sort of putting ourselves on pedestals, are we? We're sort of
No.
the poppy thing is what you're talking about, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose in part because you get into American society and they're all very rah, and it all seems sort of massively confident. You put yourself into some Asian cultures and it all seems sort of slightly more subdued. Is that really talking about the inner confidence? It depends how you define confidence, I suppose. You know, confidence doesn't have to be necessarily a truly robust thing. It doesn't have to speak in volume or massive assertion. It's about an inner feeling, don't you think? And as Kiwis, yeah, I think that there's everything to suggest that we are a pretty confident culture, and that's based on the fact that we are under good leadership, in my opinion. That, you know, we've certainly got our social problems, but by and large, pre-corona, we had a good, strong economy. Our kids are going to a school where we're progressing. We've got lots of massively great entrepreneurial brains. I mean, there is a lot that Kiwis are doing, which is making a significant difference in the bigger world. Does that remarkably answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, great. Who answered? Who asked it? Is that you, Rihanna?
No, it was a question that came through.
Oh, so I can't see the questions coming through.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
got it.
that's all right.
Okay, got it. Sorry, as I say, absolutely 100% new to this. Okay, so there's just two more things if I could just to finish off in terms of what, how I think that you could build your confidence. And this one, as I was saying before, is a really good one. I think you set yourself up for massive rejection. I know, sounds a bit crazy. I think that if you receive up to, say, 50 rejections, then you will actually become quite desensitized to rejection, which in turn will be a confidence builder, because every time you get rejected, you won't get that big smack in the face of, God, I'm worthless and hopeless, and I'm never actually going to attempt that again. So how do you get yourself 50 rejections? Call it 100 rejections, whatever number you set on it. You go with some pretty out there ideas to some people that you know will jolly well laugh you out of the room. That's how you do it. Clock them up. No, I don't want you. No, I don't like you. No, I'm not printing your book. No, I won't take your media release. No, I won't put your talent on. No, I don't want you on the TV. No, you can't have that job. No. And if you hear that enough times, you'll be thinking, oh, I've got nothing to lose, have I? And you just keep putting yourself out there and out there and out there, and the rejection feels less personal every time. 50 rejections, my friends. I'm just going to put a time frame on it. I won't. You got nothing to lose. 50 rejections. And the last one is, oh no, two more. You got to learn to say no. I think that confident people are the sort of people who know their personal boundaries, and they just say no. Don't be that human who goes, yeah, of course I will, of course I will, of course I will. No, you say no, and people will soon learn to respect your personal boundaries. And the last one is be prepared. And I think this is a really big one in terms of building your confidence. We have all been in situations, chat to me now about this, give me your horror story, executive summaries of horror stories, where you have walked in to something utterly undercooked. I have been there, and it is dreadful. It is absolutely horrendous, especially if it is a massive room, 200, 300, 400 people, and you think, I'm not prepared for this. I simply did not do the work, and I have every chance of making a dog's breakfast of what I'm about to do. And that can make you feel unsure and nervous and worried. It's horrible, and that will reflect in your confidence level, obviously, and your performance. But on the flip side, you contrast when you are so prepped for something, you walk into that meeting, you walk into that seminar, you walk up to do your presentation, whatever it is, you walk up to a client, and you know that issue inside out and upside down. Now that is quite the feeling, isn't it? You feel good, you feel strong, you feel confident, obviously, but you feel completely assured that you are on track. So I would say part of building one's at least professional confidence is be prepared. Do never, ever, ever go in thinking I can wing this. Right. So in this new era that I was talking, I'm going to play you a really funny video on a tick, so I hope you're up for that. And I really hope you haven't seen it, because that would just be dreadful. Because I laugh and I laugh. I've seen it about 10 times and I'm still laughing. I think in this new era of video conferencing, virtual conferencing, these webinars, meetings, all of that, confidence will be absolutely everything if you know how to really work this medium. So what I want to do is, in my next bit, talk about how you can be your sparkly best. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is stuff that I've just drawn from my years and years and years of being on the telly and being on the radio. Because at the end of the day, this is a camera and you are communicating through the ether. So what can we do to make you a really wonderful communicator in this medium, which, as I say, is not that dissimilar to television? So what I want to do, I'm a bit nervous about the tech side, so excuse me turning my head. I'm going to click that. So Rihanna, tell me I'm doing it all right, and I'm going to click my screen. Oh, webcam. I go to the webcam, don't I, Rihanna? And which one do? Oh, sharing. So I'm going to share my screen number 2 with you, and I really hope you get a good laugh out of this vid. I really hope this video runs. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Is that working?
Yeah, perfect.
Let's cut for a melody, shall we? Thanks everyone for getting set up at home. I think Jen's got an agenda for us, so Jen.
Here, Jen.
Can't hear you.
On the bottom, there's a little microphone icon.
Sorry, Jen, let's just move on, shall we? The main thing I really wanted to talk about is making sure our district is getting the message across that people need to stay at home. Now, Barry, you've been running some numbers, haven't you?
Yeah, I got this from HQ this morning. Is just generally they're looking pretty good. There are 1 or 2 that are concerning though, particularly the stay-at-home numbers. So looking at those, I think right.
Let's go, but you've turned into like a donut.
Hang on, wait. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I can see what you mean. My daughter's been on the computer. Hang on. I can fix that. I think. Yeah, it is. Oh, hang on. Maya.
So thanks, Barry. Thanks. Look, that'll do. So pretty good news all around, but I think we're going to have to sort of take another look at that slogan.
Yeah, look, I want to say that I think stay home, save lives is having really good cut through. I mean, literally, by staying home, people are saving lives, and I think they get that. So that's a positive.
It's a good point, Mark. Harry, have you got any optics on that one?
Yeah, there is a couple of things to do with, you know, sorry, this keeps.
Yeah, you're like a chocolate cake.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think we do need to take a closer look at safer communities together.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sal. I mean, at the moment, it's almost safer communities apart.
Yeah, and we still want people to feel connected. Something like safer communities together, but
Apart.
yeah.
Apart. Yeah. The right idea there. It hasn't really got a ring.
But what's important is that people know that we're here for them and that they can be here for each other, but from from home, from a safe distance.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Together, but apart, but together.
Okay. Moving that. Look, can we just leave it there? I think we've all got something to work on here, and we can just hook up again tomorrow morning. Okay?
Thanks for that.
You're still on mute.
Can't hear you. How do I get out of here? So, okay.
I've got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. All right. Sorry, Dave. So we were there with the hello. Guys. Hi.
Oh, sorry about that.
Isn't it fantastic? Did you enjoy that? Chances are it has been around a wee bitty. Oh, actually, sorry, I'll stop sharing that screen. What do I do? I'm going to go over to monitor number 3 now. So hopefully I've got all my tech right. Have you seen that before? Do drop me a chat on that, because I think good on the cops actually. But I can completely identify with that woman who was in the top, at the, you know, the older one with the teenagers sort of eventually helping her out. And I think, well, if we're going to put our best foot forward when using this medium, what we have to do is we've got to master it. And by mastering it, these are some of the things I think that you can do to really master your ability on it. And as I say, it is slightly rich coming from me, given that this is my first webinar host and I am still mucking around slightly with the technology. Okay, so let's talk about that. I've got some slides to go with this. So again, excuse my turning my head. I want to, if I click that, radio, can you see that, Brianna? You can see that, eh?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Oh, God,
yeah.
Thank you. Great. Heavens. In the first instance, what you have to do when you are videoing, and this is a really big thing in television, is lighting. Okay, lighting is everything. The best friend that you have to make in a television studio is the lighting director, because the lighting director can either make or break you. Lighting, lighting, lighting. So that guy in this shot looks really well lit. And why does he look well lit? Because the light is coming from the front. I know I need to practice what I'm preaching, because I don't, just with my setup here, it's annoying, but I don't have lights for the front. but he does, and what a difference it makes. Okay, so if I click that, this is what we call backlight, and backlight is ghastly. You do not want backlight, and I get a lot of backlight given where I am. So I want you to think about what light you've got going on at the moment. Have you got side light? Have you got backlight? Have you got front light? You want to have the front light, but don't overly light yourself from the front because you'll turn out all ghostly. Rightio, so a backlight, we don't want that. Right, understood? Any questions? Any questions on that? Master your light. And if, she says, not actually going to practice this at all, but if it is that you can move around the house and get yourself some really good natural light, which is coming in from the front, you will look mint. Right. The next one I want to show you is this one. This is my mate, Belinda. Now, what do we notice about Belinda? We notice there is an ironing board and a lot of ironing that my friend Belinda has to eventually get to before day's end. Your background is really important. Are you even aware of what is in your background? You see, I don't want to see pictures. I don't want to see photos. I don't want to see fridges. I don't want to see benches. I don't want to see ironing boards. I don't want to see gardens. I don't want to see anything except a clean, plain background. And why is that? Distraction. I don't want the distraction. And in television, again, this is a really important thing. Don't distract. You are the talent. You are the one that we want people to be focused on. So if you've got all this noise in the background, all this visual noise in the background, it's just not going to work. So may I suggest that if you're in the same position as me and you can't you know, get yourself a nice solid white wall or something like that to background on, just go for the blur. Go for this. Not all of the apps will do that. Like this one won't do that apparently, but go for that. Okay, I would prefer to see that over an ironing board, but ideally I'd like to see just a solid color behind you without too much distracting activity. And that brings me to another point about distraction. In television, and when I do my media training and everything, I bang on and on and on to people about having clothes that do not distract. I don't want to see jewellery which distracts. You see, if I was to say to you, Christine Rankin, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say Christine Rankin? Her ears, her jewellery. Remember those phenomenal earrings that she used to wear and those shorty skirts. Now, the thing is, lovely woman, got some strong messages, all the rest of it, but I can't remember a thing that came out of her mouth because I was so distracted by the massive earrings and the shorty short skirts. Why would you do that? You have to have minimal distraction, okay? So I don't want to see clompy, intrusive jewellery on anyone. I don't want to see hair that is so mangled that you're thinking, God, you know, can't you get to a hairdresser? As it happens, no, I can't. I don't want to see clang. I don't want to hear the clang and the clunk of jewellery because it again is distracting. You want to minimize all visual distractions. Okay. Ideally, I'd like to see you with a visual logo of your business, if that's your thing, on the bag. I think you can do, oh yeah, I know because I played with it the other day. You can do that on Zoom and you can do that on Teams. So just get your graphic of your biz and throw it up as a virtual, and that can be your background. Looks great. Okay, so that's my friend Belinda. She'll be horrified. Okay, so that's another example of how backlight looks awful. And this is this woman moving literally 180 degrees and getting her front light going on. So made that point. The other thing is eyeline. Now, how many times have you seen, I don't know if I can recreate, but you know, people sort of looking down on you like that? I mean, get yourself an eyeline. And I don't care what it takes to build up your camera to a point where you are looking straight down the barrel, because it is so much more flattering to have a face square on. Eye contact, right? Eye contact means higher engagement. So if you're looking all around the shot like that, that ain't going to work. And if your angle, have you noticed actually some of the television talent on the news and things when they're doing all of these virtual interviews? And half the talent have got their laptops really low and they're actually looking down into the camera. I mean, it's a dreadful. I mean, why they aren't asked to actually just lift the thing up, get a stack of books and lift it up to eye line, I don't know. Because you wouldn't know, but I'm actually sitting on 7 books here to actually get this to an eye line. Okay, so please could you look to that for me, please? Thank you. Straight down the barrel, as they say in TV land. The other thing is, what shot are we going to use? Okay, so apologies in advance, and I am warning you, I'm coming up very close to the camera. So this is what we don't want. We don't want this. No, we don't want that, but we're getting a lot of that. We're getting a lot of that. Come back to what we call an MCU, a medium close-up, a medium close-up. When you fit your frame and sort your frame and decide, well, how far away am I going to push my camera? How much of me do I want to be seen? You want to see these things. You want to see hands, because when people naturally engage, they use a lot of gestures, and we want to be able to see them. So when you set your camera up, it's really important that you visualize what you look like to someone sitting across from you at a meeting table. What do they see? They see basically waist up. So we're not going to go quite that extreme. We're not going to go all the way out here, but I think here's good. You can see some natural movement. You can see some physical expression. This is all good, okay? But we don't want just a super tight shot. We do not want that. So you've got to promise me that you will just back things up a bit, and we want that. That is a godforsaken aeroplane. That isn't, excuse me, but that's the first aeroplane I've heard in ever. Or is that a helicopter? Oh, it's a helicopter. Gosh, noise. Not used to the noise. Incredible, excuse me, sorry. Completely and utterly lost my way there. Okay, anyway, it's gone now. All right, so do we understand? We want the medium close up. Okay, we don't want front up. We want to see some expression, not too much. Very, very important. Audio. Audio, nothing more frustrating than someone who is wearing big earrings, short skirt, pretty lean on content, looking all over the shop. The next worst thing is bad audio. You've got to have awesome audio, and you can test your audio just before you get onto your meeting, and various platforms do it differently, but do run yourself through those tests, and also run yourself through what you look like, because once you get on and into your meeting, you don't want to be looking at yourself and playing with your hair and mucking around with yourself. I do apologize for playing with my glasses. My new ones are completely stuck, so I've had to revert back to the old ones, and of course I can't get my new ones fixed. So so there is nothing worse than actually watching someone who is looking at themselves a lot, who is really distracted by something physical going on. Maybe their shirt doesn't fit quite right, or they're mucking around, they're not comfy. In television, you're always taught you get yourself 100% comfortable before the cameras even think about being turned on. Very important. Be sure that you're okay with your hair, that you're okay with your makeup, that your glasses are fitting, apologies, mine aren't, that you feel comfortable in your clothes. And I will never forget, lots and lots of times back in the day of wearing clothes that I just didn't feel right. And so all through the show, I'd muck around with them and play with them and wiggle and carry on, take them off, put them on. It was just awful. So get yourself completely and utterly comfortable in how you look before you turn your camera on to share it with the rest of the meeting. The other thing I would like to suggest to you is, well, the headphones. I mean, you can do this. They're not, nah, yeah. Some of them have got mics, as I said before. These are quite flashy, these ones, and they've got a kind of a little mic in there, but pretty about my Bluetooth. I think this audio probably is okay if you are lucky enough to have a place quiet enough to be able to do that, just like this. No need for looking at other emails, checking your messages. People can see that stuff, and it's just actually really disrespectful. Would you do that in a physical meeting? No. Well, I'd hope not. So don't do it in a virtual meeting. Stay engaged, listen to the presenter. It's just good manners, good behavior. Okay. So I think that basically is all I really want to say about putting your best foot forward when it comes to being, well, virtual on air, or whatever we're going to call it. Give me a name, chat, throw me a name, whatever we're going to do. Okay, very quickly, I want to talk about nerves. As I said before, I think some nerves are a good thing because it keeps you on your game, but we don't want our nerves to get so overwhelming that we have no clue and we just completely lose the plot. So let's talk about trying to control those nerves. And as I said before, preparation stuff and all the rest of it, but what I didn't talk about was breathing. And you can go online and you can see 27,000 breathing techniques that everybody claims will bring you back to a nice calm place. And I've tried those 27,000 breathing techniques, and for me and for the clients I have, there's only really one that really works. So I need you to really play the game now. So are you happy to play a game? And the game is called breathing. And the game is, what we're going to do is we're going to draw in the nose, only in the nose, and we're going to do it, say, let's call it 3 counts. And then we're going to exhale through the mouth for double that count, so for 6 counts. So play the game. So we're going to have in the nose 1, 2, 3, out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll try it again. We'll do 4 and 8. See how you're going. Okay, play it, play it, play it, because no one's watching. I can't even see you. Okay, well, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And do you know what I like so much about that breathing exercise? You need to do it probably 3 or 4 times before you start to completely hyperventilate. But it brings you it centers you. That's what it does. But you can do it really quietly. So you might be on a speaking list and someone's just introducing you and you're sitting at the table all psyched and ready to go. You're about to talk to 400 people, do a keynote address or whatever it is you're going to do, okay? And then you just have this absolute spasm of fear run through you. This is something that you can sit in your seat and do really, really quietly and just bring yourself down. Now, other people need to go to the toilet and do big starfish things and say, I am and I am in control and I am vulnerable and all of the, you do all of that, but it's just a little bit loud, a little bit physical. We just want to do something that's nice and quiet, okay? And I think that is a good one. The other one I want to share with you is about when you get nervous, you kind of squeeze your head and your ears, you sound like a teenager who can't actually get a sentence out. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want you sounding like teenagers. So I would like you to invest in some corks. This is all this is, just a good old stand. If I was on television, they'd do a close-up, so I'll do my own close-up. These are nice, clean, new corks, okay? If you haven't got a cork, and chances are very high you don't have a cork on your person at the moment, grab a pen, right? One of these. Because what we're going to do is we're going to shove it in our mouths, okay? And this exercise is about getting your mouth really strong. It's sort of like gym for the jaw, if you will, because if you can spit your words out, then you're going to be heard. And when you know you are being heard, you have a far higher chance of really engaging your audience, okay? But when you're nervous and you're tight, it's not going to happen. Okay, so this is a really good way of getting your jaw moving, nervous or not. So the idea is you shove it in your mouth to about 1/3 and put it between your 2 teeth. So do it between your front teeth. Do it with a pen. And we're going to recite a rhyme. Let's do Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay? So in it goes, and I really want you to work the words of Mary Had a Little Lamb. Are you ready? Okay, so Mary had a little lamb. It fleeced was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Are you by yourself at your place? Because that would have otherwise looked so silly. But I'll tell you what, they used to do this back in the day in Hollywood. This is what they used to do. They used to shove corks into actors' mouths and say, get your jaw going. Because if your jaw goes, your words will come out nice and clear. You need to do that for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 minutes a day. I've got clients that keep their cork in the car and they do it at every red light. Odd, but true. A lot just leave it in the shower and just do it in the shower. and on it goes. And so the more you do it, the stronger your jaw will become. Not sure what you think of that, but it's a good one and an old one. And so that is looking after the jaw, and that basically winds up what I really wanted to talk to you about. I suppose a recap might be a good idea. We talked a bit about confidence. I'm stalling, waiting for your questions. We've talked about this being the new way, some top tips about how to present, and these are just old television favorites that we are bringing into the modern world of this sort of communication, of this, okay? And we've talked a bit about some exercises that you can do to relax yourself. That breathing one, I honestly think, is head and shoulders above many of the others out there. And get your jaw going, get your clothes organized, get yourself organized before you even turn on the camera. I could go down all that messaging stuff and journalism and how to deal with journalists and tricky questions and all the rest of it, but I don't think this session is really for that. I think that that's probably our natural end, unless there is anything you would like to ask me. I would be more than happy to address that for you. Oh, did I actually finish all my slides? I think I did. Oh, do you want to see something really funny? Can I show one more funny one? Do you want to see? This is a really funny one about 3 Australian TV presenters. And this is nothing to nothing, but oh God, how do I do this? If I go into screen 3, this is really fun. So you possibly will be aware of this, and it just shows how sort of silly and outrageous the whole television business can be. So if I go into sharing, this is really funny. So I'm going to share on screen 3, aren't I? Okay, let's fingers crossed this works. I have no idea if this is going to work. Okay, you ready?
I need Julie to put a jacket on because we're all in white. I asked her before we came on. Julie, you need.
Did not work.
Oh, I think it's just frozen a little bit.
If you put a jacket on.
Oh yeah, no, we're all good.
I haven't had time. Does someone? Come on, I told you 2 hours ago. We know in that room. This is not. I'm sorry, I've been flat out. Well, I'll call wardrobe and we'll get something. No, if you give me a second, if we can ask, I'm not sure who your lineup is today. If there's just a jacket floating around out there, ask Danica. Unless you want to run down and see if there's a jacket. No, you're right. No, you're right. Because you told me it's fine, Sandy, but there can't be 3 of us. No. And I've made this clear 2.5 hours ago. Amber, if it's an issue, I can get on out of here. It is an issue. Go and grab a jacket. Jenny, someone able to grab me a jacket, please. If it's an issue, I wasn't saying it for no reason. The wardrobe girls will be furious downstairs. I'm wearing blue for one, Amber. I know, but it doesn't look like it. If someone, Jenny, get someone in, a producer. I told her there's 2.5. If there's one hanging up outside the control room, just get it on. There's a black one hanging up. There's a black one hanging up on the back. If there's an issue, I can just head on out and get back to work because I'm flat out. I genuinely forgot. I told you. If it's an issue, I'll just jump on out. Honestly, jump on out. That's what you'd like to do. Come on, wearing a jacket is not. I asked you 2.5 hours ago. It's not the hardest request. Amber, please. This is not the only thing I'm doing today. Yeah, there's one hanging on the rack. I know there's 2. I know it's not your issue, but I did ask Julie 2.5 hours ago. No, it's fine. If it's fine. Yeah, as long as that mic's working for everyone. Time now to head into the chat room, and joining me today is psychologist Sandy Ray in Melbourne and Julie Snook in Sydney. A big welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
I'll tell you what, the lives of Summer, oh, that's incredible. Because she looks worse in the jacket. That's the thing. That whole 3 setup looks absolutely awful. But you've got to go and be prepared. I don't know why I showed you that. It just cracks me up every time. So anyway, anything that you would like to ask me, I am more than happy to hang around. Otherwise, that sort of puts to bed the content that I was going to deal with. And thank you very much for sticking with me. Thank you, Rihanna.
Thanks, Mary. We have had a few questions. So, excuse me, I'm looking at my other screen.
Yeah.
So, let me have a look. We've got quite a few.
Oh,
Where do I start? Okay, what's the worst presentation sin you have seen since we shifted into lockdown?
many and varied. Oh, it does remind me of that classic one with the professor. Do you remember that of a few years ago? Oh, I wish I put that up actually. So he's sitting in his spare bedroom and one of the kids comes in and then the other kid
Yeah.
comes in. It's on the BBC. And the point I want to make about this story is probably that he set it up all okay. He obviously told the wife that, look, I'm going to be on the BBC now, or CNN or whatever it was. Can you just keep the kids at bay? Because they were little, really little kids, okay, toddlers and babies and things. And then the wife realizes that the kids have come in. And so she scrambles in the door and she tries to sort of stay below the camera line. But of course not, because he had taken the massive wide shot, you see. And which is like cue to self, do never take the big wide shot. And so she tries and rustles them all out. And the professor was sitting there saying, oh God, I'm really sorry about my kids, sorry about my kids. But that's actually really silly, I think. The presenter at the BBC end, he said, oh, I see that you've got your kids joining you today. And because you might as well talk about the reality of what is happening. Like, it's not ideal, but you just accept and acknowledge, because it was too hard to ignore. 2 kids and a wife who fell over and trying to get them all back out of the room. It was too funny for words. So I think if you Google professor, children, whatever it is, you will find it. But the point is that I'd like to make, yeah, it was an abject disaster, but it went on, acknowledge it. Why ignore it? It's like me with the helicopter, perhaps. Because you could hear the helicopter out of interest.
I couldn't. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right.
I know what it's like though. It's definitely odd to hear helicopters and planes at the moment.
Yeah, but I'm kind of liking this.
So, yeah. Another question. I'm often asked to give feedback to senior people in my organisation on their presentations ahead of conferences or meetings. I can cover the basics, content, tone, volume, speed, etc., but don't know how to give feedback that goes beyond this. Can you help with ideas?
Well, it sounds like you've covered off the basics, the content, and I suggest that you've helped with that content and you've got nice succinct content. I think one of the most important things with content is story, because people don't want to hear massive long lists. Well, if you have to actually put someone through a list, then you've got to add colour, you've got to add story, because the human is conditioned to tell stories and to hear stories. And if you get your boss, your talent, whoever that person is, to actually, in their presentation, tell lots and lots of stories, then I think that that's a real tick for good content. And I take it you play a part in that before they even go on the stage. Audio is really important. I always say to my clients, if they're doing a big speech and they're getting sort of a bit slightly edgy about it, that they actually go early, much earlier, to the venue, and they look at the lectern, they look at what the mic situation is, they test the mic, they test the PowerPoint, because often when we do these things we lose track because we're so preoccupied with the technical falling down. And so practice and being prepared is one way that you can help them out if you feel they're getting rattled because of the complications with the tech, or inevitably something doesn't go quite the way it should. So we've got audio, we've got content, get them up there early. So what else do they tick off in their box of things to talk to them about? Be honest. You know, if someone's asking you for feedback, it doesn't mean you have to be brutal and mean or anything, but constructive criticism. If there is something legitimately you didn't like, and one thing I can't abide are PowerPoints with shed loads of diagrams and shed loads of words. I stick very much to the 30-20-10 rule, and that's, you know, 30 font, no more than 20 slides, and it's got to be, what's the 10? I've got a font, don't know, whatever it is. And come to one of my courses, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I'll be far more organized. But it's really important in PowerPoints not to have 1,000 words, and because the human brain cannot listen and read at the same time. So when you're giving feedback and they've got a really boring, hideous PowerPoint, like most PowerPoints are, just tell them, get rid of the PowerPoint, or just use pictures, just pictures.
Another question. Do you think calming your inner critic for you got easier with age?
Yeah, I do, because I am officially old, and I think to myself, yeah, with age comes a degree of wisdom, and also just a degree of confidence, because you have lived. And I've made lots of mistakes, and I found myself in real pickle, and every sort of bit of that has been a learning thing. So I get to now and I go, all right, I'm a million miles from perfect, but I feel actually okay inside myself. So yeah, I do. I think age has really helped that, because it's the older you get, the more you've lived. The more you've lived, the more experiences you've had, and the more learnings you've had. It's just what you decide and elect to do with those learnings.
So another question. From an internal comms view, many big organizations are going to visual comms platforms. How do we ensure that we can get the engagement levels up?
Well, by keeping your content fresh and relevant and short and succinct. I am horrified with some internal comms strategy, well, workings, if you will, that just involves lots and lots and lots of mindless meetings and lots of paper and lots of words, and not a, like there's doughy, but there's far too much ooey, if you will. So just keep it clean and simple, and also master the art of this tech. So now you can all run away to your communications teams and say, this is how, this is, you know, actually run little sessions where you are and say, right, have you got your tech sorted? These are just some of the top tips of really presenting yourself in the best possible form via this medium. So, you know, and or you can play, this is being recorded, isn't it? So you can just play this back and maybe pinch, well, do pinch my ideas and add some of your own, and really bone people up so that they look good, so that they look wonderful when dealing and operating like this.
So another question. So you've sort of answered, you've mostly answered this. So when you are speaking on these platforms, how do you communicate with confidence when you can't read the room, and how do you remain on task?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because there is, I mean, I don't know what people are thinking. All I can really measure is A, the number of questions, and B, how many people have dropped out of this webinar since it began, and the answer to that is 2. So that's quite good. Prefer it went up rather than down, but you know, that's just the way it is. So that's my only metric. Those are the only 2 metrics I've got. I suppose I like to run sessions where I want constant feedback, and maybe this is even more of an opportunity to say, well, rather than just do a big spiel, you keep asking me questions. So that chat box, I haven't quite mastered how this particular one goes on this platform. I see, I've been doing it backwards, have I? I don't know. Are they just coming to you, the questions?
That's all right. I've been sending you chats.
Oh, have you? Thanks, Brianna. Because you're right. One of the great things of doing the live stuff is that you can read the audience. You can see when they're bored, when they're getting fidgety, when they stand up, they walk out, whatever they do. But on this sort of medium and in television, you really don't have a measure, except, as I said, the numbers. I really like that little thing that tells me that we've got 48 people left. And also the constant ability to communicate through the chat. And then if that could actually also be on the social media at the same time, I mean, that would be really awesome. But you'd probably need someone in your site sort of saying, hey, you're getting all these views and lots of questions and lots of likes. You can do a hands up here actually too, can't you? On
yes,
this
you
one.
Can on this
How do you do a hands up?
So as an attendee, you can just put your hands up.
Okay, so how do I know who's put their hand up?
If somebody puts their hand up, it'll pop up.
Okay, can everyone put their hand up so I know what a hand up looks like? But what do they push to put a hand up?
It's just a little hand button on the side. So,
so I haven't got.
Yeah, we've got lots of hands coming up now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I can't see it. But look, whatever the platform you use that offers that kind of instant stuff, that's what I'd be really tapping into. Yeah, because you can't see them, as you say. sorry, I hate to be a bone with a dog with a bone. Where is the, I don't have the hands up one, so I would never know. Is that right?
Okay, so it might not be for you. I might just be able to see it.
I can live with it. Yeah, but it'll be a nice to have. Mm.
Yeah. Cool. I think that is all of the questions. There's just a lot of comments. So just about the BBC clip, I believe it was, you'll also find a similar clip of how a woman would have dealt with the similar situation. Or
so there've been takes on
yeah.
how
I imagine
yeah,
that
I
would be
could
quite
myself on the
funny.
YouTube for that.
Yeah, love the police video. Yeah.
Cool, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we should go for a round 2 at some point. If I can dream up some other ideas. Oh, hi, Elaine. Oh, she's
Hello.
there.
Thanks, Mary. I'm guilty of lots of them, and I think my son wandered in through the last, at the beginning. I've got my neighbour doing DIY. I mean, it's a fail on all counts. So thank you.
No, we're all learning this together, and it's just through everyone's combined ideas that we'll finally really master how we can do these really well. So I put my ideas on the table, and everyone will chuck in their own, and we'll come up, look at us a year down the track. Imagine how efficient and wonderful we will be at these things.
Still doesn't help if members of your family choose to ignore you telling them not to come in, and then they come in. So
well, as I say, mine have just got out of bed, so they probably don't even know what day it is.
thank you everyone for joining. Thanks, Mary.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Thank you, everyone.